sight of it all smashed and broken made her want to rail at the unfairness and the cruelty. Look at it. A few feet in front of her was a brass finial from someone's bedstead. A little further over, the iron door from their kitchen range. And by her feet, wet from the firemen's hoses and muddied from their boots, a scrap of gaily patterned cloth that might once have hung as curtains at someone's window or lain as a bedspread over their slumbers. With a sharp sniff, she wiped her hand across her cheeks. It was all very well, men like Churchill telling them they mustn't lose hope, that no matter the hardships, they must stay strong. But how the devil were they supposed to do that now? She would do her best, of course she would. As the eldest, she would take charge, as she always had. But stay strong, after this? Huh, she defied even Winnie himself to do that. I don't suppose... Beside her, Clemmie's voice was still choked by sobs. We're in the wrong place, only... May shook her head. Of all the useful things she could do now, giving her sisters false hope wasn't one of them. No, she said, her voice scratchy from the dust in her throat. We're in the right place. I know it. In truth, what did it matter? This smouldering heap of rubble here, or that one over there? The upshot was the same. Their home was gone. And yes, it might only have been 2 rooms on the ground floor of a building that ought more properly to have been condemned years ago. But it had been their shelter against the world. In it all the things that were dear to them, the few remaining pieces of their mother's furniture, the last of her china, the tiny box with the inlaid lid that had contained locks of their hair from when they were babies. But now it was all gone. And for what? What had the 3 of them ever done to the Germans? As if making them homeless wasn't enough, Hitler had snatched away her livelihood as well, and Clemmie's at the bakery too, from what she could see through the smoke. In fact, given how few buildings were still standing, there wasn't much hope for Pearl's either. So thoroughly had the enemy done their job that the 3 of them were now destitute. Without work, they would have no money. Without money, they couldn't pay rent. Rent? Where on earth would they find to rent now? With everywhere flattened, where would they even start to look? You know, at the edge of the debris, Pearl's prodding had taken on a desultory air. There is one good thing. Struck by her sister's tone, May turned to see a smirk on her lips. Really? Not sure how you fathom that. Well, you got to think we've seen the last of Charlie. Dear God, yes. Mr. Warren. When the siren had started up, he'd been slumped in one of his drunken stupors over the kitchen table, none of them daring to rouse him on their way past, which had to mean... You think he were definitely still in there, then? Clemmie's tone as she asked suggested she daren't believe it. You don't think he could have got himself out before the bombs started falling? He couldn't have woken up after we left and took himself out to shelter someplace else? May shook her head. Charlie Warren's latest bout of inebriation had left him, as it always did, so deeply comatose that if the air raid siren hadn't roused him, nothing would have. And the chance that he had survived what looked to have been a direct hit by an HE defied belief. No, Charlie Warren was gone. His reign of terror was over. Think about it, she said, casting a glance to where Pearl, the only one of them to have Charlie Warren as her real father, was now clambering over the ruins. When we crept out, he was snoring fit to wake old Mrs. Tucker on the top floor. So no, I reckon that skinful he had yesterday was his last, and that when he came stumbling in, cursing and lashing out as usual, it was for the final ever time. Yeah, Pearl looked back at them to agree. There's no way he could have got out. He's dead and buried. And I, for one, shan't mourn his passing. But Pearl, face it, Clemmie. Continuing to poke about in the rubble, Pearl was unrepentant. That foul-mouthed bastard might have been my father, but he were rotten through and through. And yes, I know you're not supposed to speak ill of the dead, but you're also not supposed to tell lies either. So let's none of us pretend we'll miss him. You might have been the one to feel the back of his hand most often, but weren't none of us spared his wrath. It was me he swore at for fighting off the drunks he brought home. It was me he told not to be so...